Understood. Here is a completely original, no introduction, no name drop, and highly intriguing opening for part 1 of 8. Built to stand out from all past stories, without setup or character backstory, diving straight into the twist and tension from the very first line. Part 1 of 8. She was zipping up her dress when she said it. You don't have to wait up for me tonight. I'll be with someone else after the party. That was it. No warning. No explanation. No apology. She said it while zipping up her dress, her eyes locked on the mirror, not on me. Like it was traffic, or weather, or something she had absolutely no control over. The kind of casual cruelty you don't flinch at unless it's aimed directly at your chest. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to laugh, scream, or just walk into the sea. She adjusted her earring, smirked, and then, I kid you not, asked if I could still drive her to the venue. Drive her to the party, so she could dance with another man, in a dress I paid for. After that, she wanted me to go home, stay quiet, and pretend this didn't crush my lungs like a steel trap. But I said yes. Yes. I got my keys, opened the door, and let her walk past me like she was untouchable. She thought I was numb. She thought I was weak. But she didn't see what I slipped into my jacket pocket while she was in the bathroom reapplying lip gloss and humming to herself like she hadn't just set fire to everything. The car ride was short. She kept texting. Hearts. Smiles. One, can't wait to see you tonight, red heart. She didn't even bother hiding it. And I didn't say a word. But by the end of that night, she would. Because I wasn't dropping her off at that party alone. I had a guest of my own. And she had a reason to be there. The moment the elevator doors opened, everything changed. Ready for part 2? Absolutely. Here's the new part 2 of 8, continuing directly from the last scene, written in larger paragraphs, no column format, and keeping it highly intriguing, fresh, and original. Still told from the POV of a whiny, betrayed husband, fully YouTube monetization safe, and unlike any other story previously written. Part 2 of 8. The elevator doors opened, and so did her lie. As soon as the elevator chimed and those sleek gold doors slid open, I felt her posture shift. You know that subtle twitch people do when they realize they're not in control anymore? Her confidence wavered, just for a second, but it was enough. She wasn't expecting a crowd by the entrance, let alone people looking in our direction. And she definitely wasn't expecting who I walked in with. The woman beside me? Not a date. Not a friend. Not even someone Marissa had ever met. But she knew her. Oh, she knew her name. You could see it in how her face drained the moment our guest stepped forward in that deep green gown. Elegant, powerful, expensive, the kind of look that says, I'm not here to play along. I'm here to expose everything. You ever watch someone smile with their mouth but panic with their eyes? That was her. She looped her arm through mine instantly, like nothing was wrong, like I hadn't just overheard her plan to sneak off with another man an hour before. Babe, she said through clenched teeth. You didn't tell me. She was coming. I thought it'd be more fun this way. I replied casually, then turned to greet one of her coworkers walking by, who gave me a double take. His eyes darted from my wife to the woman on my other arm, and then to his phone, probably already typing something in the group chat. I should mention, my guest wasn't just anyone. She was the HR director of Marissa's company, and not just in name. She was known for being ruthless with policy, and even more brutal when she smelled internal scandal. I hadn't planned on inviting her, until I got that one message. See, the night before, I went digging. Not on her phone, not on her laptop. That was the old me, the spineless version who apologized for being too suspicious. But this time, I didn't ask for permission. I went straight to the company's anonymous ethics line and left a message, vague enough to protect myself, but specific enough to raise every internal flag. Someone from HR called me the next morning. I told them I had something better than an email trail. I had timing. Marissa tried to whisper something to me as we walked toward the ballroom entrance, but I wasn't listening. I just smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I knew I wasn't going to have to say a word. She was about to dig her own grave, right in front of everyone she cared about impressing. Inside, the venue was exactly what she'd promised. Classy, overdone, way out of my league. Crystal chandeliers, floor-length tablecloths, live quartet, glasses that probably cost more than our microwave. Her boss was already there, and so was Ryan. I didn't need to guess who he was. He made it obvious. He had that smug side piece at a company party look, a little too confident, sipping whiskey like he owned the skyline behind him. He looked at Marissa like she was already his. But when he saw me standing beside the HR director, his expression cracked just enough to show he hadn't anticipated this twist. Then came the introductions. And one sentence, just one, changed the entire night. Let me know when you're ready for part 3. It only gets messier from here. Absolutely. Here is part 3 of 8, continuing directly from where part 2 left off. The style remains paragraph-based, not columnar, with larger blocks of text, crafted to be highly unique, emotionally charged, and deeply intriguing. The tone stays consistent. Whiny, hurt husband, YouTube safe, and completely fresh in structure and pacing. Part 3 of 8. One sentence, and her whole act crumbled. The introductions were happening in slow motion, or maybe that was just my brain short-circuiting from the sheer thrill of watching her world tilt sideways. Her boss, Mr. Draken, a gray-haired man with a handshake like a dead fish, walked up with a glass of champagne and smiled at us. "Marissa," he said warmly. "And, oh, you brought your husband. Excellent." Then his eyes landed on the woman beside me. "Cynthia, you're here too?" That was the moment. That one sentence. Because Marissa hadn't seen Cynthia as a threat. Not really. She assumed Cynthia was just a +1 I dragged into save face, or maybe some charity case from my workshop who wore heels once a year. She didn't realize until right then that Cynthia's name carried weight in this room, more than hers did. Cynthia gave him a gracious nod, her tone casual but layered with meaning. "Thought I'd come see how company parties are handled around here. You know, from the inside." Marissa tensed beside me. She tried to pivot. "Oh, it's great that you two know each other." "Cynthia's," she hesitated, "an old acquaintance of ours." Cynthia tilted her head and replied, "Not that old, but I do keep records." The word records hit like a silent bullet. Ryan, the guy from across the room, was now watching intently. I saw him glance at his phone and immediately lock the screen again. That guilty flinch, that was all the confirmation I needed. We made our way to our table, and that's when the games began. Marissa kept trying to hold my hand under the table, the same hand she wouldn't even look at in the car just an hour ago. I let it happen, but I didn't respond. I just sat there sipping water while she played her part for the audience, laughing a little too loudly, leaning in every time someone important passed by, doing damage control in real time. She was unraveling, and no one else could see it, but I could. Every time she glanced over her shoulder, she wasn't looking for Ryan. She was watching Cynthia. Cynthia, who hadn't said a word about why she was here or who invited her. That silence, that was the real threat. That was the noose tightening around the lie. Then dinner was served. The small talk started, and I leaned in close to Marissa and whispered, "You know, you could have just told me you were done. I would have left. Quietly." She smiled like she didn't hear me, but I felt her grip tighten on her fork. That tiny shake in her wrist, that wasn't nerves. That was fear, because she knew I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't the same guy who used to beg her to stay in and cuddle. I wasn't the guy who forgave late-night texts and unexplained absences. I wasn't the guy who used to believe work drinks ended at 10. That guy was dead. And tonight, she was going to watch me bury him, publicly. But just when I thought I was in control, something unexpected happened. Cynthia stood up during dessert, lifted her glass, and said, "If I may, just a few words about accountability." And my stomach dropped, because I had no idea what she was about to say either. Let me know when you're ready for part 4. The real chaos starts there. Here is part 4 of 8, continuing seamlessly from the tension-packed moment in part 3. This part is longer, paragraph-based, fully original, and remains told from the POV of a whiny, betrayed husband. It builds on the suspense while staying unique in structure, YouTube-safe, and deeply intriguing. Part 4 of 8. Cynthia's toast wasn't just a toast. Every fork clinked softly against a plate as Cynthia stood up with her glass, commanding the kind of silence usually reserved for CEOs and scandals. Her voice was smooth, measured, even polite, which somehow made it feel more threatening than if she'd screamed. "If I may," she began again, her eyes scanning the table like a hawk. "I'd like to make a small toast. Not about love, not about promotion or success, but about responsibility and the quiet ways we fail each other before we admit it aloud." Marissa shifted in her seat so aggressively I thought she was about to knock over the centerpiece. Her smile was frozen in place, The kind you use when a camera is pointed at you, but you're seconds from crying. Cynthia didn't blink. It's easy to wear nice clothes and sip good wine while pretending everything is fine, she continued. But I think it's much harder, and more important, to own our actions, especially when we assume no one is watching. Ryan coughed. A nervous, dry, cover-up cough that didn't help his case at all. Marissa's fingers fidgeted with the strap of her dress. Her knees bounced beneath the table like pistons. Cynthia raised her glass a little higher. To those who believe loyalty is optional, and to those who've stayed silent far too long. There was a pause, and then she drank. Half the table awkwardly followed suit, unsure whether they were applauding, condemning, or just playing along because the wine was expensive. Mr. Draken cleared his throat like he wanted to move on. Marissa just stared straight ahead, jaw tight, eyes glassy. She didn't even touch her drink. I leaned in again, quietly, like I was whispering a joke, and said, "Still want to leave with him after this?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her mouth was slightly open like she'd forgotten how to lie. It was a beautiful moment, honestly. A woman so good at spinning stories, speechless. But things got even better. Because Cynthia wasn't done. After sitting back down, she reached into her clutch, slowly, like she was pulling out lip balm, and instead handed me a folded envelope. Not thick, just one sheet of paper inside. I took it, opened it under the table, and scanned the contents. I didn't even know what I was holding at first. It was a printed screenshot. A message from a company laptop, sent during office hours. I recognized the sender. Marissa. The recipient? Ryan. And the message? Explicit enough to fry our home Wi-Fi, if I'd seen it there. I looked up. Cynthia didn't say anything. Just sipped her wine and nodded once, like she was giving me permission to use it, however I wanted. I folded it back and placed it gently next to Marissa's plate. She saw it. She saw the header. And her face crumpled instantly, like someone kicked the foundation out from under her soul. That's not real, she stuttered. That's taken out of context. Ryan stood up, awkwardly, pretending to need the restroom. But he didn't head for the hallway. He went straight for the exit. People at other tables started whispering. Not loud, but enough. You always know when you're the subject of the whispers. And then, right as Marissa reached for my arm like I was her lifeline, I stood up, calmly, silently, and pushed my chair in. "You wanted me to drive you here," I said softly. "Figure out your own way back." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. But the look she gave me, wide-eyed, breathless, cornered, said everything. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was the consequence. Let me know when you're ready for part 5. It only escalates from here. Absolutely. Here's part 5 of 8. Written in larger paragraphs, no column formatting, and structured for maximum intrigue, with a strong emotional build-up and no recycled material. The story remains fully original, from a whiny husband's POV, and 100% compliant with YouTube's monetization rules. Part 5 of 8. She followed me out, but I wasn't waiting. I didn't rush out. I didn't slam the door or look over my shoulder for dramatic effect. I walked with purpose, steady and calm, like a man who finally felt the weight slide off his back after carrying it for years. Behind me, I could hear the shuffle of silverware pausing and the buzz of voices picking up. The room was now digesting more than just dinner. It was absorbing a slow-motion implosion. But before I even reached the lobby, I heard it. "Ellis, wait, please." Her voice, that same voice that once whispered promises at 2 a.m., was now cracked and desperate. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. Not immediately. I wanted her to feel the pause, the uncertainty she had shoved down my throat for months. When I finally turned, she was barefoot, heels in hand, breathless. Her dress was slipping slightly off one shoulder, and her makeup, flawless just half an hour ago, was now betraying her. Mascara lining the corners of her eyes, lipstick smudged from biting her lip too hard. "You don't understand," she said quickly, like speed might erase the evidence. "Oh, I understand more than you think," I replied, holding the envelope up between two fingers. "I understand this was typed during work hours, on a company laptop. I understand Ryan practically sprinted out of the building without even finishing his drink. I understand you invited me here not as a husband, but as a decoy." "That's not what this is," she snapped, voice rising, hands trembling. "I didn't know Cynthia would. I didn't know she would do this." "Do what?" I asked. Hold you accountable. Her mouth opened and closed like she was drowning, but no words came out. I watched her search for the performance, the charm, the practiced lines, but they were gone. And underneath all of it was just a woman who never thought I'd walk away while she was still watching. You still don't get it, she whispered, suddenly quieter. I didn't fall in love with him. It wasn't like that. I needed something different. You were always so careful, so predictable. I needed chaos. Congratulations, I said flatly. You found it. She stepped forward, reaching out like we could rewind it. Like everything up there hadn't just happened in front of half her department and an HR director with a grudge. But I took a step back, and that hurt her more than yelling ever could have. I can fix this, she said, voice cracking. I can talk to Draken. I'll deny everything. We'll say it was a prank. You think I care about the job? I asked, stunned. This isn't about saving your reputation. It's about what you broke. The revolving glass door ahead let in a gust of wind that cut through my suit and sliced the last thread tying me to this moment. But before I could leave, she said one more thing. Please, don't tell my parents. That stopped me cold. Her parents. The ones who adored me. Who called me every Sunday. Who sent me Christmas cards with handwritten notes longer than most wedding vows. The ones who once told her, at our anniversary dinner, you hit the jackpot with this one. Tell them yourself, I said, and walked out into the night. What she didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking toward someone else. Someone she hadn't met yet. But she would. Soon. Let me know when you're ready for part 6. The next confrontation isn't at a party. It's at home. And she's not ready for it. Here's part 6 of 8, continuing the story with larger, flowing paragraphs and a pacing that balances emotional depth with sharp suspense. It remains fully original, not recycled, and written in American English from a whiny, betrayed husband's POV, staying 100% YouTube monetization friendly, with a deep focus on character and consequence. Part 6 of 8. She came home to apologize, but I wasn't alone. She didn't come home that night. I didn't expect her to. I imagined her wandering the city in that crumpled designer dress, texting Ryan, getting ignored, then probably crying in the back seat of an Uber while trying to figure out what part of her scheme blew up first. The funny part is, she still probably thought the problem was Cynthia, or Ryan, or me reacting too dramatically. People like Marissa never assume they're the problem. They just blame the explosion on whoever lights the final match. I slept just fine, by the way. First good night of sleep I'd had in months. No half-awake glances at her turned back, no silence radiating from the other side of the bed. No more pretending. She came home the next morning around 9 a.m. I heard the key fumble in the door like her hands were shaking. Or maybe she hoped I wasn't there anymore, that I had left a note, or packed a bag. She wanted a clean break. An out. But no. I was still there, making coffee in the kitchen, feeding the cats, like nothing had happened yet. She walked in slowly, like a teenager coming home after curfew. Makeup gone, hair messy, heels in one hand, purse in the other. Her eyes were red, and she was wearing a hoodie that wasn't hers. Probably Ryan's. I didn't say anything. She didn't either. She stood in the doorway of the kitchen like she was waiting for some emotional explosion, for me to flip the table or throw a mug. But I didn't. I just handed her a cup of coffee. No sugar. She always took it sweet. I made it bitter. You didn't sleep here, I said. I didn't think I should, she replied, voice low. Because you didn't want to face me, or because you didn't want to see what I'd unpacked? She blinked. What does that mean? I stepped aside. Sitting at the kitchen island was a woman she didn't recognize. Tall, sharp-eyed, mid-30s, typing something into a leather-bound folder. She looked up and gave Marissa a polite nod. This is Amber, I said. She's a mediator. A what? Divorce mediator, Amber clarified. He hired me last night. I'm here to help make the transition civil and efficient. I only charge hourly. Marissa's mouth fell open slightly. She looked from Amber to me, then back again. You're kidding, she said, almost laughing. I was going to wait, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. I thought about dragging this out, making it ugly, giving you time to spin the narrative. But then I realized no, I want clean edges. I thought we were going to talk, she blurted out. I thought maybe we could try to. No, you thought you could cry, explain, and walk away with my dignity still in your purse. She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. You told me before the party that you were seeing someone else. You said it like you were asking me to take out the trash. That's when you lost the right to rewrite this story. Amber flipped a page. Shall we begin? Marissa didn't move. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just stood there like the air had been sucked out of the house. I haven't even talked to my parents, she whispered. I haven't even told them anything yet. I met her eyes. You will. And then I reached into the drawer and handed her a small white envelope with her father's handwriting on the front. She looked confused, opened it, and immediately backed into the counter like she'd been punched. It was a card. From her parents. They dropped it off this morning. Early. Apparently, Cynthia sent a very polite email last night with a summarized version of everything that happened. The message inside? We love you, but we won't defend the indefensible. Please don't come home until you remember who you used to be. She didn't even finish reading it. She just folded the card and set it on the table like it was radioactive. I'm not the villain, she whispered. No, I replied. You're just the author of a really stupid ending. And we hadn't even reached the finale yet. Let me know when you're ready for part 7, where consequences meet legacy. Here is part 7 of 8, written in larger narrative paragraphs with a completely fresh structure, continuing the story from where we left off. This part pushes toward the emotional peak, completely YouTube safe, no recycled lines, and still told through the eyes of our whiny, quietly bitter narrator. The pacing is slower here, deliberately uncomfortable, as the unraveling tightens. Part 7 of 8, the story she tried to hide was already gone. The mediation didn't go the way she expected. She kept trying to pivot, to reshape the narrative, like this was still some fixable misunderstanding and not a full-scale unraveling of her double life. Amber stayed professional, but I could tell she wasn't new to this kind of spiral, the kind where one spouse sits in the wreckage trying to edit the story mid-air while the other already knows the landing. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. That's what made it worse for her. I think part of her wanted me to blow up, to throw something or say something cruel. If I had, she could have convinced herself I was the problem. But I didn't give her that. I just kept showing her paper, printed emails, messages, time-stamped office calendar invites that made no logical sense, like team lunch at 10 p.m. on Saturdays. The stuff I didn't have a month ago because I wasn't looking. I'd been too loyal, too trusting, too slow. And then, finally, I handed her the one thing she hadn't expected, the revised title paperwork for the house. She blinked when she saw the notarized seal. What is this? She asked, her voice thin. I bought out your share last week, I said. I had the paperwork ready. I knew you'd try to negotiate for it, but no, you can't just. I didn't, I said. Your parents did. Technically, they made the wire transfer after they saw the messages. That's when she stood up, knocked the chair back. Not to leave, just to do something. Her breathing was jagged, eyes wide with disbelief. You told them? No, Cynthia did. You should really stop underestimating women who read HR policy for fun. She didn't speak after that. She just sat down slowly, her hands shaking against the polished edge of our table. The same table we bought together during our 2nd year of marriage. Back when we still had stupid inside jokes about assembling furniture and getting lost in IKEA. I hated how my mind did that, how it remembered the softness while she sat here in the ashes. Amber finally asked the question. Do you want to pursue full dissolution or mediation terms with clauses? I looked at Marissa. She was watching me now with a look I hadn't seen on her face in years. Not anger, not guilt, fear. Full dissolution, I said. And that was that. Amber packed her notes, said she'd be in touch, and left quietly. No handshakes, no goodbyes. Just clean, cold procedure. Marissa stayed seated, hollowed out, like her body hadn't caught up to her consequences yet. Then, as I walked her toward the door, yes, my door now, she asked something I didn't expect. What happens now? To me? I paused. I really did think about it. And then I told her the truth. That's not my story to care about anymore. She stood there for a moment longer, probably hoping for some flicker of old affection, some thread to cling to. But there was nothing left. Not after what she did. Not after what she made me become just to survive it. And then she left. No dramatic exit. No final monologue. Just the sound of the door clicking shut behind her. And silence. But not the kind that hurts anymore. The kind that finally lets you breathe. Let me know when you're ready for the final part 8. where closure finds both of them, just not in the way she hoped. Absolutely. Here is the final part 8 of 8, written in full paragraphs with a positive yet emotionally grounded ending. It brings closure to the narrator's arc while remaining true to the story's tone, subtle revenge, redemption, and emotional growth, all told through the lens of our whiny, heartbroken husband, now finally reclaiming peace. As always, this is 100% YouTube monetization safe and completely original. Part 8 of 8. I let her go, but I didn't stay alone. 3 weeks passed. Quietly. Without drama. Without texts at 2 a.m. Without the echo of high heels down the hallway. Just stillness. A stillness I didn't realize I craved until it filled every corner of the house she once dominated. The first few days were strange, not going to lie. I kept expecting her coat to appear on the chair or her voice to break the silence with a sarcastic comment about my coffee-making skills. But the ghosts of her routine faded faster than I thought they would. The house wasn't haunted, it was healing. I reassembled the garage into a real workspace again. I started building things not to distract myself, but because I wanted to. Shelves, a new dining table, a bench for the porch. I stopped eating frozen food every night. I started jogging. I fixed the screen door she complained about for 2 years, but never once offered to help with. And then, the thing I didn't plan, someone else walked in. Not literally. It started with a message. Amber, the mediator, reached out. Not for business. Just a simple, hope you're doing okay. We ended up meeting for coffee. Not wine. Not a dinner date. Just coffee. I like that. It wasn't romantic. Not at first. But it was real. Grounded. Honest in a way I hadn't felt in years. She asked me questions and actually listened to the answers. Not so she could weaponize them later, but because she wanted to know. Over time, things softened. And then one day, while we sat on the new bench I built out back, she asked me if I was angry about how it all ended. I thought about it. No, I said. I think I'm grateful. Marissa reached out once. Just once. An email. 3 lines. I saw you posted photos of the house. It looks nice. I hope you're okay. I didn't reply. There wasn't anything cruel about my silence. There just wasn't anything left to say. She made her choices. I made mine. And in the end, we both got what we built with our bare hands. She built a performance. I built a new life. And for once, I wasn't the placeholder, the doormat, or the background character in someone else's spotlight. I was the one who stayed standing when the smoke cleared. So yeah, I'm okay. Better than okay. Free. White heavy checkmark story complete. Let me know if you'd like. A unique video description. A YouTube title under 100 characters. A one-line thumbnail rephrase. Or a Ukrainian translation of anything.